Hi, good morning. We're here this morning at Wandsworth Hall and we're speaking to Deputy Mayor Ian Lewer, who is dyslexic. We'll be speaking to him about his dyslexic journey, some of the challenges he might have faced and positiveness about dyslexia. So come and join me.
Hello. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
Thank you for inviting us today to do the interview on the dyslexic series.
That's quite all right, Elizabeth. Come on in, please.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
That's all right. It's a pleasure.
Wow, it's a beautiful office.
It's very nice, isn't it? Have a seat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for inviting us to the Mayor's office.
That's a pleasure.
If you can just introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about yourself and who you are.
Certainly. My name is Ian Lewer, and I am a councillor representing the West Putney ward on Wandsworth Borough Council, which I have done since 2014 when I was first elected, and then I was re-elected last Thursday for a second term, I'm very pleased to say. In my time on the council, I've done a number of things. I've been on the education and children's services, grants, licensing committees, and I was deputy chair and then chair of the Adult Care and Health Committee. And this time last year I took over as deputy mayor of Wandsworth, and I've done that now for two separate mayors over the last year. And then outside of that, I work for Legal and General as a relationship manager.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Is that a sort of... Sometimes, yes, sometimes.
With lots to do. Thank you very much for that. So really, today we're here to talk about dyslexia.
Yes.
And just wanted to hear from you what it was like for you as a child when you were growing up, and how did dyslexia impact in your life?
I didn't, obviously as a child, I didn't necessarily notice it to start with. I think the first time it became obvious that I had dyslexia was when I was quite young, and I can't remember exactly what age I was, but I wasn't primary school, I was sort of the next sort of level up, so I was under 7, shall we say, and I was writing from right to left as opposed to from left to right, obviously. And this obviously was of course a concern for the school and for my parents, and at a particular meeting that my parents went to at this particular school, they basically said that the reason for it was I was a bit thick. My parents were not too pleased with this, and my father expressed himself in forthright terms towards this particular teacher on that basis, and I left that school and went to another one when I was about 7, I think it was, who actually focused a lot more on support for dyslexic children. And through that's when I first had an assessment, and when it became obvious that actually I did have dyslexia, and they were able to put in place extra support, including sort of extra tuition and extra support where I needed it, as I sort of went forward. And then also my parents provided me with extra there was an extra tuition on top of that. And then sort of when I was 13 and I moved on from there and went to senior school, I went to a school down in Dorset which specifically sort of prided itself at that time on the support that it gave to dyslexic. It was all male then, so dyslexic men, it is co-ed now, but it was at the time, it was then all male, so dyslexic boys essentially, should we say, and the support that they gave specifically to us, and carried on there with sort of things like extra time in exams and extra sort of support that I had as well.
Wow. So you found out about dyslexia at a very young age, or your parents did?
Yes, they did.
And you got that support, which really has helped you to excel in your career, really, and in education.
And I think, it's probably best to say this, is that I was very lucky in that my parents were able to afford to send me to independent schools. And therefore able to afford to send me to independent schools that specialised in the support for dyslexia.
Yeah.
I don't think, because this would have been in the sort of time period was from the sort of early 90s onwards to when I left school in 2003, and that at that time period, although dyslexia was becoming more prevalent and more obvious in the school system, it wasn't in any way near the levels in the state system that it even is now. So actually, it would. I think I was quite lucky in the sense that my parents were able to afford to send me to independent school so that I could get that support. I don't really think that level of support existed in the state system when I was at school.
Yeah. So, what advice would you have for the individual who's watching the series, whether it's a child or whether it's a parent or whether it's the individual who is dyslexic?
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
I think the advice I'd give is that what you tend to find with most dyslexics is that perhaps number one, you're not thick. That's the most important thing. It's a big sort of, perhaps the reminder of that is it's highly likely, although it's unproven, but it's highly likely that Albert Einstein was dyslexic by some of the people looking at how he behaved, as are other people. It's highly likely that people such as Winston Churchill were, and others. There's a lot of examples there. You're not thick, and don't let anyone tell you that, or equally think that. Secondly, the major thing that dyslexics usually have is that you struggle with one or more particular aspects of learning, from the children's perspective, or of dealing with issues in life, whether that's spelling, which is probably the most famous in that sense, and it's the most obvious, or arithmetic, which is very much my sort of case where I struggle a bit more, and so on and so forth. On the flip side, though, there's probably something, if not many things, that you're very good at.
Absolutely.
And better than the average at.
Yeah.
So you might be below average here, but you're above average there. Well, I think that my sort of main bit of advice, the simple thing, is focus on the bit that you're above average on. Yeah. And if you get help and/or try ways of working on the bits that you perhaps are below average, but focus on the bits that you're above average. So if you're a child and you're good at art, do that. Focus on art. Go and do more art. Focus on learn how to do more art, and so on and so forth. And if you're an adult, if that's a talent you find you have, for example, well, go find a class that you can learn how to do more of it, and so on and so forth. Focus on what you're good at, not on what you're bad at. Don't become consumed by what you're bad at. Quite simply, become consumed about what you're good at and focus on that. And that way, you'll be able to, I would say, literally you'll be able to achieve from there. You'll be able to find jobs, success, and however else you want to achieve.
Of course, yeah. I mean, I have lots of clients we have lots of clients come to see us at A2i Dyslexia. One of the major things that come out, it's self-confidence.
Yeah.
What sort of advice would you give the individual about confidence in terms of dyslexia?
I think in terms of confidence, there's an element. There's probably an element first off of accept it and don't be ashamed of it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you're going to be pigeonholed or you're going to be put into some sort of box and told that that's where you're going to be for the rest of your life. That's not true. And then equally, focus again. I would say in terms of the confidence things. Go and try something that you're good at and succeed at it. The most important thing is to remember that you are gifted, that you are talented, that you have huge talents and huge ability. And it doesn't necessarily, having a learning disability or dyslexia, mean that you're going to be left in the dust behind everyone else. You're not. In fact, if anything, you have the opportunity to be out in front of everybody else. You're not average, you're probably above average. So I would say if you work hard, you accept that you have dyslexia and enjoy it in some ways and focus on the things that you are successful at, you can be a success in whatever you choose to do. And if you never know, if you're really lucky, you might end up as a deputy mayor like me.
Oh, that's fantastic!